Hello and welcome back to A Normal Meets a Nerd, a podcast with me, Dylan Evans, a very normal person who loves asking abnormal questions that you want to know the answer to.
And me, Darragh, a very nerdy person who loves answering those questions in a fun and scientific way.
So things are getting a little bit colder now.
It's a bit parky in here, isn't it?
Can I see me breath? Not quite, not quite.
Well, you've obviously got no soul.
Yeah, and that's that. Thanks.
Yeah, Christmas is coming. It's that time of year, isn't it?
Can we tell them?
I think we should.
Go on.
We have got a very special Christmas present for all of you listeners of Normal Meets a Nerd.
A little cheeky Christmas special.
Yeah, but it's not just going to be, at Christmas. It's going to be about Christmas.
That's boss. I love that.
Yeah, we got to have it. We got to cover Christmas topics.
Yeah, I'll get a hat.
The big Christmas questions that you'll be asking over your pudding.
Yeah.
And we're going to have them sorted, so whenever anyone asks the bonkers questions, you won't just have a Christmas cracker joke to answer it. You might actually be able to throw in a few facts.
Yeah,
as well.
just say, I've seen that on my favourite podcast, A Normal Meets a Nerd.
Exactly.
Well,
anyway,
let's
speaking of podcasts, we should probably do some questions.
Shall we?
Let's have a look. What have we got today?
Do it, okay. So one that always confuses me, this might sound stupid, but how do batteries work? Like, is it magic? How is this a thing? I don't get it.
It seems like magic.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it's a bad question because I think people just assume they work.
It's a battery.
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah,
and people think that it's filled with electricity. And it's not.
Now in my head it is.
You're
going to have to change that. You're going to have to change that.
So you don't pump it full of electricity. It's not a jar full of electricity.
This is what I mean. How'd you get that in there? How'd you get your juice in there?
So you can't make energy. You can't destroy energy. That's impossible. You can only change its form.
Okay.
Right? So it goes in as electrical energy, but that gets stored as chemical energy.
Oh, right.
So it's actually a fuel that you use.
It's a fuel.
Kind of, right? You don't burn it, but it's a chemical source of the energy. And what happens is most batteries have two different metals.
Yeah.
And they're in a substance called an electrolyte, which is either a kind of jelly or a paste or a fluid in between them.
Electrolyte.
And the two different metals have different levels of reactivity. So one's more reactive than the other.
Okay.
And when you connect them to a circuit, one loses ions, loses electrons and becomes charged, and there's a flow of electrons because they're two different ones. One's more reactive than the other.
This is in any battery. This is in
batteries. That's how
that's
batteries
what I mean.
work.
Oh my God.
So that flow of electrons is what's electricity. That's what it is. Electricity is a flow of electrons. And that's what it is. So it's a stored, ready to go chemical reaction that produces electricity when you hook it up to a circuit.
Right.
And that's what it is. So it's not magic by any stretch. All it's doing is converting one form of energy into another.
It's getting closer to magic though.
Well, there's a famous quote that any sufficiently advanced science seems like magic.
Wireless charging.
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's just sending the electrons across.
But from where? How is it? Nothing's even touching.
Doesn't
it can charge stuff.
Yeah.
It's like what Tesla was going on about.
It's exactly what Tesla was going on about.
And I don't know good. I don't know smart.
And rechargeable batteries, the chemical reaction is reversible.
Meaning what?
So when you plug it in, it will make the chemical reaction effectively go in reverse. So you can put it back into storage mode again. And then when you use the battery power, the chemical reaction runs out and it stops. And then you can you can fill it back up, essentially, the chemical reaction. So it's kind of cool. It does work.
It's kind of magic. Is that what we're settling?
It seems like magic, but it's physics. There's no such thing.
Oh, come on. He keeps saying this every episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm awful.
I will get you to admit the magic is somewhat real. That's my aim for the series.
But there is a problem with rechargeable batteries in that they do degrade over time.
Oh, yeah. My phone's on the blink every day.
So this is because there's a certain amount of degradation of the system. Every time you charge it and recharge it and run it through, it eventually gets less and less and less and less.
You're draining it slowly.
Yeah. So one of the best things that we need to figure out is a more efficient way of properly recycling and recharging and reusing electrical batteries.
And then it'll be magic.
And then it'll see like
We'll get there. Why do animals see in different colours to humans? What's that about? Why?
Well, it depends on what the animal
prioritizes.
Does a dog see in black and white, or is that the cartoons?
Not quite black and white, but they don't see the same range of colours that we do. But dogs don't have to.
Well, but it would be handy just to see. It'd be handy to see colours.
Well, the reason why we see colours is because, one, we're awake during the day, so we're not nocturnal, and colours happen during the day because there's more wider range of light. It's almost impossible to see colours at night time. And we evolved a very specific type of sight so that we could find our food and all that kind of thing. So colours that, say, ripe fruit are red and yellow and orange, those colours stand out to us. You notice something that's red. You know, it's why Liverpool wear all red kits.
Up the Reds.
Up the Reds.
Yes.
Exactly.
Up the Reds.
It's why, you know, most of our fruit are red, yellow, orange. Because our eyes are specially adapted to see those colours. They're very strong to us and we notice them. But we're not awake at night time, so we don't need very much night vision. It's not a thing. So this is why we can't see in the dark.
So what does like an owl see? Like, or
Black and
something
white.
they're black and white even in the day?
Well, they can't see any others because the level of sunlight is so low, reflected from the moon and whatever, that there's not enough light to give off colours.
Right.
So we've got two different types of cells in our eyes, rods and cones. And rods are the ones that detect light. They just detect light and that's all they see. So that's black and white vision. And the majority of our eyes are rods. And there's a small number of cones that detect colour, but a lot of animals that live at nighttime, nocturnal animals, have hardly any cones at all.
Okay.
And they've also got a reflective layer on the back of their eye. So like, you know, a cat's eye.
Yeah.
That reflects the light back through their eye so they can maximise the amount of information they can get from a very small amount of light. We don't have it because what we want to do is actually to absorb as much of the light as possible so that we can see colours and see things really sharp and really quick.
Is there anything that can see more colours than us?
Oh, yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
we can't be the best.
Oh, we're not even close.
And then what aren't we seeing? Ghosts?
So we...
Watch the last episode. Someone's got ghost vision.
We're not seeing ghosts because they don't exist. But so there are animals that can see a really wide range. So we can't see infrared, we can't see ultraviolet. So a lot of insects don't see very well in red and yellow, but they see purple, blue, ultraviolet. So they've kind of shifted further along the spectrum what they can see. But there are some animals, and there's one called the mantis shrimp. Have you ever heard of a mantis shrimp?
Is this the one that punches their dad?
They're
the weirdest eyes in the world.
And they can see a huge range of colours, and not just that, they can detect the difference between very, very subtle shades. So they can see thousands of different shades. They can see all across the spectrum. They've got amazing.
Like a superpower, that.
Oh, it is. And they punch their claws so fast the water actually boils ahead of them. They're super cool.
That's like a super.
Can't really keep them as pets though, because they'll break the aquarium.
Did they break the glass?
I think they probably could. Yeah.
This sounds horrible.
Yeah, but they can see stuff that we wouldn't even dream of seeing. So they could see, you know, the beam coming out of your remote control.
They'd see it like a little laser.
Like a line. Yeah.
That's mad. I love that.
Yeah. So
shame they can't watch telly.
Eyes are adapted for what the animal needs.
Okay. We are learning. I like this. So we have been saying that you need to get your comments in so I can give them to Darragh and get them answered. And we've actually got a comment here from Lamarche on our TikTok. Thank you for the comment. Thank you for the question. Keep them coming. This is a good one. How do animals survive in the deep sea? I've always thought this because we can't even send like a submarine down to certain places. Yeah. How do they survive then? What's going on there?
So they've loads of different strategies depending on the type of animal that they are and how deep they go. So if you go down to the deeper parts of the sea, the weight of the water pressing down on you is kind of like having 100 elephants standing on you.
What's the point in that?
It can be kilometers of water, and it's completely dark, it's completely cold, and 100 elephants standing on your head, basically, in terms of pressure.
Yeah.
So animals that are adapted for living on the surface are never going to survive. Even if you could breathe and you didn't die of the cold, the pressure would do you.
Exactly.
Crush. The reason why you're crushed is because there's gaps. So for starters, so we've got lungs, we've got all that kind of thing. Animals at the bottom of the sea don't have those.
No gaps.
They don't have air filled. They don't have. So a lot of fish have swim bladders, which is how they sort of float in the water. They don't. They just don't have them. The really deep sea ones don't have those. A lot of animals, so like sea jellies and jellyfish and stuff, are largely made of water, almost completely made of water. And you can't compress water. You can't squish it. It stays the same volume. This is how hydraulics work. If you push down on water, it doesn't get smaller.
No. Wait, what? What do you mean? It must to an extent.
If you put a billion tons of pressure down on a column of water, it would not move.
I don't believe this.
Yeah, because water can't be compressed. Liquid is as compressed as matter can be.
Ah, okay, I get it.
So it can't squish down any further. So water, you can't compress it. There's nothing you can do. You can't squash it down. So this is how hydraulic systems work. They push down on the water and it lifts up. It's just how it works. So that works in one way. And their cells are different. So they have, I think I have a technical term possibly down here.
Go on.
Oh, I don't. There we go.
Lovely.
Ignore that. There was a technical term, but I probably filtered it out because it was too hard to pronounce, more than likely. So their cell membranes are specially adapted. So they have sort of interlocking structures. So their cells don't burst either, you know, and they've different types of proteins in them that help contain the pressure. So they're very, very specially adapted to the point where a lot of them, if you bring them to the surface,
my next question was what happens?
They'll burst.
They'll burst.
Yeah,
like
because it would be like if we go out into space, the pressure is so low that they would just swell up because they're so adapted to being under pressure. So a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, you can't even bring them up to look at them. And if they do survive, they look really weird. Like
that little blobfish fella?
Poor blobfish.
Is that?
Yeah.
So he won't look like that at the bottom?
Probably not. So he probably doesn't look quite as ugly. And everybody always like...
We always just call him ugly.
Yeah.
And he's not.
Well, he's a bit. But yeah.
Bless him.
Yeah. But there are other things like, there's crustaceans with special type of shells that kind of live quite deep down. But there's a great one, and it's called the hop.
The hop.
There is a deep sea one. It lives on, the vents that let out all the hot water under.
Oh, yeah.
So they're the only ecosystems that are completely independent of the sun. So they don't need sunlight. They get their energy, they convert to chemical energy and heat energy. So if the world ever does go, pear-shaped, they'll probably be the last things alive.
Yeah, fine.
But there's one of them that has a chest plate that's got all of these projections on it that look like hair. So it looks like it's got a hairy chest. And it's called the hop.
No way.
Yeah. Scientists and nerds, we like this kind of stuff.
Yes, user. We've got another question from a listener here. They keep flooding in. It's a good one as well.
Love the questions. Keep them coming.
Keep them coming in. This is from S Sparrow on Instagram, right? Why does hair go grey when you're older? And why is it going grey?
This is a great question. So the reason why your hair is a colour is because it's got special type of stem cells in your follicle.
Right.
And they're called melanocytes, which just means like dark cells,
okay,
basically. And the number and type of these is what gives you your hair colour. So people with blonde hair, red hair, brown hair, all have different sort of makeups of them. And they don't last very long. So they keep going, they divide, and then eventually they stop. So they've a limited number, and that's controlled genetically.
So it kind of gives up.
Yeah, so it kind of stops. They finish off and they're done. And when that happens, you go grey, and that's just purely down to your genetics, largely. So if you have the same kind of lifestyle as someone else, and you're genetically identical, you're an identical twin, your hair will both start to go grey at about the same time.
Right.
The only thing is that you can actually influence this. So you can go grey earlier. Stress can damage your melanocytes and lots of other things.
That's mad.
And it can make your hair go grey. And that can happen really, really quickly, actually.
And then it can go back to normal. Have you ever seen that?
It can reverse.
And you can see like patches in hair where it's like, I had a few stressful months there. And you can see it almost like tattooed on.
There's also a very small number of people who have a particular reaction to a certain type of drug. So the guy who does my makeup on The Chase, Neil, you're a legend. He got a treatment for psoriasis. So this is an anti-inflammatory treatment. So it's an immune disease, and he got a special type of anti-inflammatory drug, and it changed the color of his hair. His hair went redder, and and some of his greys went. So you can actually reverse greying hair, so that your hair starts growing back.
Not naturally, but not like just dyeing it.
You're not dyeing it, actually, so it will grow out in colour again. Very strong recommendation that you don't try to do this at home. These are very, very powerful drugs that have to be prescribed. Don't do it, and it only works for a tiny fraction of people. It's some weird genetic trick thing that happens. So for maybe 1% of people who take these particular drugs,
the colour comes back,
and sometimes it's not the same colour. Sometimes it can be a bit different.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a really, really weird side effect of a drug. Do not take drugs for side effects. I can't emphasize that enough. Sorry, I feel responsible.
You should. You should.
But it's genetically determined. You'll find that most people will go grey about the same age as one of their parents did.
Ah, okay.
Most people, yeah.
Nice questions. Keep them coming in.
We love listener questions.
Another great question from a listener here. This is from Emma Kearney on Instagram. Thank you for the questions. Keep the comments coming in. We'll give them to Darragh, of course. This is a weird one. Why are hands smaller than feet? Why are hands smaller than feet?
I'm going to go with the very obvious answer, so that we don't fall over.
Yeah, because hands not be bigger. When I think of an alien's got massive hands.
Yeah, but that's
big, long
your
fingers.
Imagination. So eventually having longer fingers doesn't help. You know,
it can't hurt.
Unless you're going to play piano, but from an evolutionary point of view, you know, having like longer fingers makes them less dexterous. They're more awkward, probably easier to break if you're in an animal, all that kind of thing, swinging through trees, all that kind of stuff. They don't.
Yeah, but we're done with that now. We're all typing. We need long fingers.
Yeah, but that's not how evolution works. It takes a long time and there has to be selection pressure.
But
we'll go through evolution on it.
We're still, okay, let's just say,
We also don't use our hands and feet for the same reasons. So if you look at an ape, its feet and its hands are very, very similar.
They're like the same, aren't they?
They're very similar, yeah. The hands tend to be a little less
They have thumbs
stocky.
on the feet.
Yeah,
Mad.
they've opposable big toes, so not thumbs on their feet. But we spend a lot of time on our feet pushing down a huge amount of weight on them. They need to be broad. We need them to be wider, longer. We need them to run. You know, if you lose a toe if you lose your big toe, it really messes with you. You know, you need to have that whole thing to run.
You'd be fine without your little toe. You could get rid of your little toe, you're flying.
Little one maybe, but your big one not so much.
I've never thought about my feet this much.
So your feet are sort of very well adapted to keeping us upright and moving at pace.
Right.
I know we don't. You do that most of the time, but that's what they're for. So they have completely different functions, which is why they're different. I know they started out the same, but we've adapted it.
There you go. There's your answer, Emma.
Great question, yeah. Well, weird question, but we like weird questions.
Another boss question from a listener here. This is from Neve Henderson on YouTube. Honestly, keep the comments coming on anything, TikTok, Instagram. We are reading them and we are giving them to Darragh. This is from Neve. Shout out to Neve. Anyway, why is it dressed to the 9s when it should be out of 10? Excellent point. What does that mean?
It is a brilliant question, but only if you assume that 10 is the natural number to go for.
It is though. You do out of 10. Everything's out of 10. Strictly Come Dancing is out of 10.
We do now because our numbering system is based on 10. You know, so it's in groups of 10 and it goes up. Yeah. And that makes sense. And that's why this question makes so much sense. There's no solid answer on this. No absolutely solid answer, particularly for dressed to the 9s. The idea of to the 9s, we'll talk about in a minute, but dressed to the 9s specifically is kind of sketchy. There's a few different ones. I picked out my favourite one though. So the 99th Regiment. So this is a Scottish group of soldiers from the Duke of Edinburgh, formed them in the 19th century, the mid-19th century.
Nice.
And he had quite a lot of money. And this is about the time that dress to the 9s became a thing, so mid-19th century.
Okay.
And his troops were known for being very well kitted out.
Okay.
They were known for being very presentable. They had really nice uniforms, because at that time, a lot of the time, the leader of the regiment would have paid a lot of money so that the troops looked good on parade and all that kind of stuff.
Good.
You know?
Yeah.
And they would have had very good uniforms, very well presented, and it was a big part of their thing. So they think it might be to the 9s.
To the 9s, meaning them.
The 99th. Now, I've done a little bit of research because I went down a rabbit hole on the 99th regiment.
He tends to.
They weren't very popular because they went to Sydney, I think it was. Yeah, Sydney. And they were so badly behaved that the army had to send out the 11th Regiment to keep an eye on the 99th Regiment because they caused so much trouble. They were always like wrecking bars and it turns out a load of Scottish lads went on holiday to Australia, had a bit too much to drink and got in a little bit of trouble.
It still happens to this day.
So for dress to the 9th, that was kind of where a lot of people think, I'd swallow that a little bit, but It might just be that to the nines was a saying, and then they just added dress to anyway. And to the nines is a lot older. That's been around for like well over 100 years before that. And again, a few different things talking about, you know, the 9 muses, the 9 worthies, all these things from classical literature.
Right.
But the one I like best is it might be a reference to 9 pins.
What's
like
9 pins?
Barroom Skittles.
What?
Kind of like bowling, where you
Oh,
know, you knock
not
over.
10-pin bowling.
Yeah,
the other
9 pins was the name of the game. And the most pins that you could knock over in one throw
was a 9.
Was a 9. So it might be that was the top marks. There's an awful lot of people who have tons of reasons why that probably isn't the case, but that's my favourite one. So
I like that. I can see that. So like 10 become the new 9. Basically, even bowling, look.
Yeah.
Like 10-pin bowling now, innit?
Yeah.
No one's doing 9 pins no more.
No, because it's a little diamond, but they used to have the little thing on a string and throw it. And
Rubbish.
yeah.
No. We need to go bowling. There you go.
Bowling's a great idea.
Yeah. Should we go now? Let's go now.
Jealous.
While we go bowling, make sure you get your comments in, and I'm almost going to guarantee there's going to be a lot of new listener questions in the next episode.
Probably bowling related as well.
Yeah, maybe. Right, we're going to go bowling. You get your comments in down below, and this has been a Normal Meets a Nerd.
Thanks for listening, and make sure you ask us your questions.
Get them in. Get them in. Get them in.